Now, you might be wondering about all the other values on the circle. So for 0, pi over 2, pi, and 3 pi over 2, we know that those are all the points that intersect that axis at either 1 or -1. But for the other theta values, finding out what the point is, or what the coordinates are, isn't quite as simple. Okay, so looking just at those values in the first quadrant, we have pi over 3, pi over 4, and pi over 6. Since pi over 2 is 90, that tells us that pi over 3 is 60 degrees, pi over 4 is 45 degrees, and pi over 6 is 30 degrees. We know that cosine of 60, or cosine of pi over 3, is 1/2. Cosine of pi over 4 is square root 2 over 2. Cosine of pi over 6 is square root 3 over 2. So then the sine values are the same as the cosine values we just listed there, but in the reverse order. So sine of pi over 3 is square root 3 over 2. Sine of pi over 4 is square root 2 over 2. And sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. So therefore, we know what the coordinates are for the angles pi over 3, pi over 4, and pi over 6. So you can see here, it shows what each of those angles are. And now, once we know what those coordinates are in the first quadrant, we can use them to find what the coordinates are of the points in the second, third, and fourth quadrant. So if we're looking at, say, the angle 2 pi over 3, which is in the second quadrant, you can see visually that this has the same second coordinate, or the same y-coordinate, as pi over 3. And the first coordinate, or the x-coordinate, is just the negative of the first coordinate of pi over 3. So for pi over 3, we have 1/2 comma square root 3 over 2. And for 2 pi over 3, we have negative 1/2 comma square root 3 over 2. And similarly, if we're looking at, say, 7 pi over 4, which is in the fourth quadrant, 7 pi over 4 has the same first coordinate as pi over 4, which is square root 2 over 2. And then the second coordinate is just the negative, which is negative square root 2 over 2. Now, looking at this, you might find it kind of confusing to remember which value is 1/2 and which value is square root 3 over 2. So, in particular, is it cosine of 60 that's 1/2, or is it sine of 60 that's 1/2? So let's use as an example 60 degrees, or pi over 3. So looking at that line there, you can visualize the triangle that I drew earlier. So here, we indicate that. So we can indicate this right angle triangle here. So intersecting the x-axis, basically where that 0 degrees is shown. And so you know that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And so looking at the side that would be adjacent, so basically from the origin to that 0 degrees, you can see that that's about half of the radius. And so the radius is the hypotenuse. And so therefore, you can tell that cosine, which would be adjacent over hypotenuse, is just going to be 1/2. Now looking at the vertical line that would be from the x-axis up to that point, 1/2 comma square root 3 over 2, that vertical distance is clearly greater than, that vertical distance is greater than 1/2. And so when we take opposite divided by hypotenuse, we're going to get a value greater than 1/2. And so that's going to be square root 3 over 2.